Hello, here we are on day 2 of our reading lessons in the book, The Power of Electricity. For this lesson, you will need your reading book, The Power of Electricity, your packet, open to page 6, a pencil, and a highlighter if you want to use that to highlight context clues for your vocabulary. Let's start by turning to page 3 and talk about the essential question for this unit. The essential question is, where do scientific discoveries lead us? Take a minute to look at the pictures and to think about any other scientific discoveries that you know. You can write those down, any ideas you have, at the bottom of page 6, and go ahead and pause the video to write down 2 or 3 ideas. And when you come back, we will go over some ideas that I thought of, and you can see if they go along with your ideas. So an idea that I got from one of the pictures was the picture of this train, which looks like it could be an electric train. One of the very first scientific discoveries was the discovery of the wheel. And once early man had the wheel, he was able to move things a lot easier. And we go all the way up to the discovery of trains, cars, airplanes, many other different forms of transportation. Also, I got the idea of space from one of the pictures. So down at the bottom, I've written space and some things that we have discovered in space: the moon, the stars, planets, asteroids, many other things that scientists go and explore out in space. Many important scientific discoveries have been made in medicine. Without discoveries in medicine, we wouldn't have antibiotics or vaccines or operations to fix things that are wrong with people. So now, go ahead and turn to page 6. And we will start on our selection, Benjamin Franklin, The Dawn of Electrical Technology. Benjamin Franklin was one of the most influential thinkers of the 18th century. He was one of our country's founding fathers who helped to draft the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution. But he also was an inventor and scientist. He made some of the most important contributions to the history of science. So in paragraph 1, I have circled the word influential. And when I think about our country's founding fathers, I'm thinking of people like George Washington, James Madison, and other people who helped found or establish our country. And so if he was influential and he was one of those people, to me that means that Benjamin Franklin was a very important thinker. So you can annotate the word important with influential. You can underline or highlight our country's founding fathers to show how important he was. There weren't any other words in here that I was unfamiliar with, but some of you may need to know things like Declaration of Independence. A declaration is a statement, and independence means freedom, that we want to be able to be on our own. So he helped draft the Declaration of Independence, meaning that he helped to write about our freedom. And the United States Constitution. And we discussed constitutions at the beginning of the year. The Constitution is a document that states how we are going to run our country. Now continue to follow along and circle your own unfamiliar words. Next week, you will be telling me during the Zoom meeting about your own unfamiliar words, and you will be asking each other for definitions and context clues. So, beginning on paragraph 2, go ahead and start reading along with me. One of Franklin's ideas changed the course of scientific history. One stormy day in June 1752, Franklin stood in the doorway of a shed with his son William. They were flying a kite. Franklin wanted to show that lightning was a type of electric current. Many people at the time believed lightning was a form of magic, but Franklin's observations had led him to conclude that lightning was a natural form of electricity. He learned through his work and the work of other scientists that electric energy was conducted through metal. So he wanted to find out if lightning would pass through a metal object. To do this, Franklin tied a metal key to a kite and went out to test his hypothesis. A man of science and letters. An account of this famous event was written by scientist Joseph Priestley many years later. The kite being raised, he observed some loose threads of the hempen string to stand erect and to avoid one another, just as if they had been suspended on a common conductor. He immediately presented his knuckle to the key and he perceived a very evident electric spark. Franklin collected electric fire in a Leyden jar. A Leyden jar is a glass jar with a glass layer sandwiched between two metal layers. Electrons build up on the metal layers. When a conductor connects the two metal layers, the jar produces an electric spark. Franklin used a Leyden jar to conduct experiments with lightning. He proved that it was a form of electricity. In the caption at the bottom of the page, an engraving made in 1870 shows Benjamin Franklin and one of his assistants flying a kite during a thunderstorm to test the electrical nature of lightning. Don't forget, you should be circling keywords or unfamiliar words as we go along. And I would think that you would have at least 2 or 3 unfamiliar words for each of these paragraphs. Continue to do that in the next 2 pages. I'm going to skip the timeline at the top for now, and we're just going to focus on the main selection for now. Franklin also shared his work and techniques with others. He wrote to scientist Peter Collinson to tell him how to build a kite and draw electric fire from lightning. As soon as any of the thunderclouds come over the kite, the pointed wire will draw the electric fire from them, and from electric fire thus obtained, spirits may be kindled, and all the other electric experiments be performed, which are usually done by the help of a rubbed glass globe or tube, and thereby the sameness of the electric matter with that of lightning completely demonstrated. This box down here, the color is that of parchment, which was a type of paper that they used to write on. And so that tells me that this is a primary source, a quote directly from Ben Franklin in 1750. So this is what he said. Would not these pointed rods probably draw the electrical fire silently out of a cloud before it came nigh enough to strike, and thereby secure us from that most sudden and terrible mischief? These would have been some of his notes that he took as he was doing his scientific experiments. Franklin went on to make other important inventions and discoveries. By connecting Leyden jars together, he invented an early type of battery. Franklin also invented the lightning rod. Franklin's studies of lightning helped people understand electricity. Lightning rods have saved many people's homes and lives. Franklin also coined many of the words we still use to describe electricity. Battery, charge, and conductor are just some of the terms Franklin invented. Franklin was a curious and intelligent man. He helped to form the first public library and the first fire department in Pennsylvania. Franklin also helped to write the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution. Franklin accomplished many great things, but he was most famous around the world as the man who discovered the nature of lightning. The caption for this picture reads, "When lightning strikes a building, it is conducted through the lightning rod harmlessly into the ground." So if you look carefully at the bottom of each lightning strike, those would be at different lightning rods. Then a wire goes from the rod down into the ground, so the electricity goes there instead of into the building. All right, let's turn back to the beginning of the selection on page 6. And follow along as I reread the selection. As I do, I am going to explain the words I circled and look for context clues. And I'm going to model finding and underlining key details in the first 10 paragraphs and writing them in my own words on the lines. At each point, you can pause so that you can write down the same ideas that I'm writing down in the margins on the lines. This modeling is to help you get ready for doing your job, and your job again is going to be identify the key details in paragraph 11 and identify the main idea of the paragraph. And that's just paragraph 11. Okay, now let's reread and discuss the vocabulary and come up with some ideas on what the key details are from this selection. Benjamin Franklin was one of the most influential or important thinkers of the 18th century. He was one of our country's founding fathers who helped to draft or write the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution. But he also was an inventor and scientist. He made some of the most important contributions to the history of science. One of Franklin's ideas changed the course of scientific history. The course would be the pattern or the way science developed. One stormy day in June 1752, Franklin stood in the doorway of a shed with his son William. They were flying a kite. Franklin wanted to show that lightning was a type of electric current. Now, I'm not seeing any context clues really here, so I will tell you that an electric current is the flow of electricity. And so that is also the key detail of this paragraph. Franklin wanted to show that lightning was a type of electric current. Can't really rewrite that in any better words than what he has right now. Many people at that time believed lightning was a form of magic, but Franklin's observations had led him to conclude that lightning was a natural form of electricity. He learned through his work and the work of other scientists that electric energy was conducted through metal. So he wanted to find out if lightning would pass through a metal object. To do this, Franklin tied a metal key to a kite and went out to test his hypothesis. Now, a hypothesis is a scientific guess. Scientists will state their hypothesis, and then they'll perform experiments in order to find out if their hypothesis or guess is true or not. I'll pause for a moment because I just realized you can't see what I just wrote. So a hypothesis is a scientific guess, and his guess was this. Franklin thought lightning was electricity. Now, if at any time I am going too fast, you can always pause the video to write down your annotations. Let me make this a little clearer. Franklin thought that lightning was electricity. All right, let's continue to the next page. A man of science and letters. Letters means that he was also writing about his experiments. He also wrote many books, Benjamin Franklin did. An account or a story of this famous event was written by scientist Joseph Priestley many years later. The kite being raised, he observed some loose threads of the hempen string. Hempen is definitely an unfamiliar word, although you might have heard hemp before. That would be the nickname for hempen string. And I definitely have some context clues here. Hemp or hempen is used to make string. It has loose threads. So it's that kind of string that looks a little hairy when it's on the roll or when you unroll it. He observed some loose threads of the hempen string to stand erect or straight up. And to avoid one another, just as if they had been suspended on a common conductor. A conductor moves electricity. Some things are good conductors of electricity, like metal, and some things are not, like rubber or wood. They don't allow electricity to move. He immediately presented his knuckle to the key and He perceived a very evident electric spark. Perceived, in this case, would mean that he saw it. He actually saw the spark that happened. Franklin collected electric fire in a Leyden jar. Now that would be an unfamiliar phrase, except for the fact that they define it right after it. A Leyden jar is a glass jar with a glass layer sandwiched between two metal layers. You may not have heard that word sandwiched used that way, but it means just what it says. It looks like a sandwich. So you have a layer of metal, then a layer of glass, and then another layer of metal. So it looks a little bit like a sandwich, and the glass is the meat in between the two slices of bread. Electrons have to do with electricity, build up on the metal layers. When a conductor connects the two metal layers, connecting those two pieces of metal that are the bread of our sandwich, the jar produces an electric spark. Franklin used a Leyden jar to conduct experiments with lightning. He proved that it was a form of electricity. Now, I don't have any new key details here. This whole page is just a description of the steps of his experiment. So these are the small details that back up, again, the key details that lightning was a type of electric current. And he wanted to find out if lightning would pass through a metal object. So in the Leyden jar, electricity has moved from the two layers of metal that are surrounding the glass layer. This doesn't really go with the main selection, it's just describing the picture. And engraving is something that is carved out of metal. So this picture has been engraved or carved on metal, and it's showing Benjamin Franklin and one of his assistants flying a kite during a thunderstorm to test the electrical nature of lightning. All right, let's continue on. Franklin also shared his work and techniques with others. By the way, let me remind you, you should have been circling words that you don't know. And anything that I'm circling, I'm fairly sure there are many people at your age that would need help learning those. This is filled with domain-specific vocabulary that have to do with experiments and especially with electricity. Techniques doesn't have to do with electricity. It's just the way that you do your experiment. The ways that you do things. He wrote to scientist Peter Collinson to tell him how to build a kite and draw electric fire from lightning. As soon as any of the thunder clouds come over the kite, the pointed wire will draw the electric fire from them, and from electric fire, thus obtained, spirits may be kindled. Now, rather than define all of these words that I'm circling in this paragraph, I've just written a kid-friendly description in the margin that I will show you when we're done, and you can pause to mark it down. Spirits may be kindled, and all the other electric experiments be performed, which are usually done by the help of a rubbed glass globe or tube, and thereby the sameness of the electric matter with that of lightning completely demonstrated. Would not these pointed rods probably draw the electric fire silently out of a cloud before it came nigh enough to strike, and thereby secure us from that most sudden and terrible mischief. Now, this is vocabulary from the 1700s. It is a little hard to get through. That's why I just went ahead and wrote it all in my own words. So I'm going to show you my book, read my explanation of these two sections in my own words that I wrote down, and then pause for you to write them down yourself. Don't write anything yet. Just follow along and read my writing where I've explained these two paragraphs. So, in my own words, this is what these paragraphs mean. Lightning hits the rod. It sets alcohol, those are the spirits, on fire, and it can be used in other experiments. Franklin thinks his rod will protect us from electricity hitting us. That would be the sudden and terrible mischief. Being electrocuted by lightning is definitely sudden and terrible. All right, so I'm going to pause, give you a chance to write those down. You will also need to pause your own video. Okay, we're going to resume our reading now. Franklin went on to make other important inventions and discoveries. By connecting Leyden jars together, he invented an early type of battery. Franklin also invented the lightning rod. Now, a rod is a pole, and so a lightning rod is used to help keep lightning from hitting your buildings. Franklin's studies of lightning helped people understand electricity. Lightning rods have saved many people's homes and lives. Franklin also coined many of the words we still use to describe electricity. Battery, charge, and conductor are just some of the terms Franklin invented. All three of these words, they tell us, with context clues, are words we still use to describe electricity. Battery, charge, and conductor are just some of the terms Franklin invented. Key details that I found in these sections. This is the main idea of paragraph 9. Franklin went on to make other important inventions and discoveries. The key details that back that up are that he invented an early type of battery. Franklin also invented the lightning rod. Paragraph 10 are small details that explain what a lightning rod is. They have saved many people's homes and lives. All right, now this paragraph is the one that belongs to you. I don't see any vocabulary words that are really difficult. Again, what your job is to do is to find the main idea and the key details just in paragraph 11. So I'm going to write that here. This is your assignment. Star the main idea. And underline 2 or 3 key details that support the main idea of this paragraph, paragraph 11. So that is what you will be working on at the end of the video. Okay, so take a moment to write that down, either in the margin here or on your piece of paper. While you're writing that, I'm going to finish reading the paragraph. Franklin was a curious and intelligent man. He helped to form the first public library and the first fire department in Pennsylvania. Franklin also helped to write the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution. Franklin accomplished many great things, but he was most famous around the world as the man who discovered the nature of lightning. So one more time, you need to find the main idea, and then you need to find 2 or 3 key details that go with the main idea, 2 or 3 examples of this main idea. Now I'd like you to switch to your packet, page 6. And the assignment is written again right here. So let's read the top. This is your close reading purpose. Read Benjamin Franklin, The Dawn of Electrical Technology, and annotate key details. We've already done that. Then complete the chart with key details and the main idea from paragraph 11. So I'm going to highlight that. That is your assignment. Here are your key details. It says to include the paragraph number. Well, I will give you the paragraph number right now. It is paragraph 11. Here's your paragraph symbol. Paragraph 11. As I said, you are looking for 2 or 3 key details. You don't have to write them word for word. These 3 bullets, please copy them down, are your reminder that you are finding 3 key details. And then down here, this is your main idea. Again, of paragraph 11. Now, the other part of your reading assignment is to answer these 2 questions. Now, I realize that some of you have that black bar covering them up, but it just occurred to me that you can pause the video right here and you can read the questions and answer them. So even if this is the bar that's covering up the middle of those 2 questions, and maybe B or C might be your answer, you can still circle or write the letter B. Whoops, that would be in the covered up spot. You could write the letter of your answer down below if it happens to be B. This one, maybe it's C. I'm not saying they are, I just picked 2 letters. Write them somewhere on the page. Again, you can read the questions and be ready to answer them at the question and answer session this afternoon. Part A, what is the main idea of this text? Key item here, you're looking for the main idea. And part B, which sentence from the passage best supports the main idea? This looks just like a test question, and it is a test question. Something you should be able to do. Whatever you pick from part B should go along with part A. They should be about the same thing. So those are your assignments to finish that page. Your other assignment, flip over, is that we're going to read the writing prompt, and I will let you know what it is that you need to do for this page. Please ignore the fact that I wrote what I'm doing there. All right, so this is our writing prompt that we're going to work on for the rest of this week and next week. This will be a Google Classroom assignment that you will turn in. Opinion writing prompt, alternative energy sources. The word alternative means other. So you want to write that down at the top of your paper. Alternative means other energy sources. You'll remember from one of our other units about green technology that currently, or right now, we make a lot of our electricity from burning coal, oil, or natural gas. We are looking for alternatives or other ways to get energy. People are looking for new ways to produce electricity, such as wind power, solar power, and nuclear energy. Research one of these ways to produce electricity. In a 3-paragraph essay, explain why you think this is the best method. Make sure to support your opinion with reasons and evidence. Now, when you meet with me at the Zoom meeting later today, I want you to have highlighted which of these 3 examples, wind power, solar power, or nuclear energy, that you are going to research. I've demonstrated mine up here. This is mine for a model paper. You are not going to choose hydropower. That is going to be mine. So I'd like you to underline or highlight what you are going to do. That's all you need to do for this part of the assignment, and we will discuss it later at the Zoom meeting. If you don't come to the Zoom meeting, then you will have a really hard time writing this paper. So if you are watching this video, please plan on joining our Zoom meeting. As always, the meeting invite will go out at 2:15, and you will be let into the meeting at 2:20. So the final thing that I'm going to put up is the work for you to finish by 2:15 for your Zoom meeting. You can pause the video and write this down, and then get to work on it and be ready at 2:20. In packet page 6, you're going to underline or highlight 2 or 3 key details in paragraph 11 and star the main idea. And you are going to write them down. This time, I would like you to be ready to tell me what your main idea is or what one of your key details are. That's your assignment, to be ready for that. Also, you're going to do the questions at the bottom of page 6. You can pause the video or roll it back to see the questions and circle or write the letter of your answer. Then on page 7, I want you to circle or highlight your choice of power source that you are going to research. One final thing that will help you for our Zoom meeting this afternoon is that along with the link for this video, I'm going to have the teachers put an article on hydropower. If you read that ahead of time, it will make it a lot easier for when we are going over how to do your opinion statement and reasons that support your opinion. Be ready to tell me at least one thing that you have learned from that hydropower video. Pardon me, not video, but article. I will be reading the article again, but your first reading should be on your own. Okay, so there are your assignments. I will see you at 2:20. Thank you for watching.